Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, when I spoke to you, you were telling me about so many different things, and you've had ties into the community for a long time. But you understood the need for you to start building a team when it comes to the brokerage. Just tell us how you got to that point where you said, I'm going to utilize real estate as one of my ways for, helping out community.
Well, as I mentioned, I learned a lot from like the music business and different business models that I feel like a lot of us aren't taking advantage of with the exponential growth of technology and everything else. And in the real estate brokerage, I feel like we had 360 deals where the brokerage had too much leverage over us. And for me, I wanted to step out, create something where the model that I knew it should exist, where I can help with ownership, with investments, and not take all their money in their pocket, right? And so what I did for me is it was important to go and like I believe it's Mother Teresa says, be the change you want to see. And as much as I didn't want to do this, step out and create a brokerage, I felt like the market needed it. So I created systems that provide a lot of value, much more than any other brokerage, whether it's Keller Williams or Compass, all these other brokerages that give you the prestige and they take your leverage away, right? Like signing a major deal to a company versus the independent route. So what I'm trying to do is say, look, you don't have to use this brokerage. It's a scam. Wake up. Let's look at new business models and figure out how we can change it instead of following the historic systems that usually have kept us enslaved and in bad situations, right? I feel like the real estate brokerage for Black people is the same thing. They don't really celebrate you, they accept you, and we're forced to acclimate to their culture, right? Which is middle-aged white woman culture in Seattle and Bellevue. So why are we so accustomed to following these traditions that we don't want to step out and create our own thing? And so when I say that I provided more value, I mean more value, more tools, less money, better access to investment, the information, every across the board. I made sure that the offering that I finally put together was more than what would expect. And when I say they, I mean our people. And now it's open for them to come. And if not learning and growing, or excuse me, and joining my brokerage, then let's talk about how to go and create your own. It doesn't have to be mine, but let's work on a collective identity and um, um, build generational wealth by using the same systems that other cultures have used, which is group economics.
Well, this is really, I think, interesting. And it was interesting to me to hear you talk a bit about this because honestly, these are a lot of the models that I think built the first civilizations was this collective understanding. And so when you're talking about providing more value, you're really talking about what real estate professionals, because there's a lot of different, positions in the real estate game. So are you talking about, those who are out there, doing the listings? When you say they, who comes in to really benefit from this package that you've put together?
Mostly real estate brokers, because what I wanted to do is this came from my old brokerage where they had this cooler that was full of water bottles and it said for clients only. And it got to be this really petty thing where I would come in and say, I'm the client of this brokerage, right? I understood that. How did they not understand that? And all of a sudden they would, hey, you will be charged. They start changing the sign because I would take it off. It became really petty. And then all of a sudden, on my monthly bill, which included everything you could think of from copies to the space that I occupied, and then they started to add the water charge to it, right? And so for me, I realized that in order for me to build the brokers the right way, I need to understand that the brokers are the customers. So I can show them the systems and the way to service their client, which are the home buyers and sellers. But for me, I wanted to create a great experience for the brokers. And within that package, we have something called a client experience that will wow any client that they work with.
So this is my question because I think for many of us, that are looking to buy a home, some that may be looking to sell in our communities, oftentimes we think of, okay, I have somebody who's showing me, listings. I have somebody who's taking me around. They're like my real estate professional. Tell us the difference between, the person that we may see in the out facing versus a broker, because I think the positions are different, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, in Washington, just to be clear, we're all called brokers slash agents. It's the same thing.
Got it.
I'm assuming you're talking about the managing broker, and the managing broker is just servicing people, babysitting, a lot of hand holding. It's not a glorious job, and that's why for me it was kind of biting the bullet to say, okay, as much as I don't want to do this, I'm going to step out because I knew how much we needed it.
Yeah. So your experience as a broker yourself really allowed you to understand the need for us to have a space, particularly because I mean, when I saw this, we could put this photo up here of NextHome Prolific is what you created with this brokerage firm. It's look at all these amazing folks here. I mean, you've got a solid team here, amazing people that are coming together, but there's something that is also comforting, I think, for any Black family in, this side of the state that's really looking to buy or sell their home. Oftentimes we really want to try to find ways to work with people that we either know or that we feel we could build that relationship with to really trust. How did you do that in your line of business as a broker yourself, and how do you utilize that experience to then help the brokers that are coming into your brokerage?
So don't really I really can't articulate how we've been so poisoned with these different mindsets and these principles that trap us, right? But historically, the trust goes to a person that is of another color, right? We somehow they represent trust. A person that looks like me, and I come to an appointment, you say that this person is not trustworthy, right? Based on these historical sort of mindsets that
Mhm.
we've just accustomed to. But what I wanted to do for the brokers is allow them to be themselves. They understand that everything that is taught within the major brokerages is based on a middle-aged white woman culture. Get out of that. Let me show you how to be yourself, knowledge of self, education, understanding excellence, a client experience, and then be yourself. It's much more freeing when all of a sudden you're able to compete in the top 10 in the state, but yet be yourself. And I want to show that. It's the reason why I don't wear a suit every day and I don't, you know, I I remain myself
Mhm.
because I saw how I did it, right? It was tragic. They I felt like they abused me in any way they could because they knew I was alone on the east side, right? And so for me, I wanted to go back and say, let's create this always rooted in integrity, excellence, and making sure that we're consistent. We have follow up, but let's show everyone that we can be ourselves and still represent excellence. Black people, it is possible. I can look like this and still provide middle-aged white man excellence in service.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah. See, this is right here where we're talking about creating new models. It's something that I really gravitate to because I think you're absolutely right when you talk about us breaking down the monotony of thought that we've adopted, we've accepted as norms, right? And to be able to see something different in actual action and seeing it in practice, that right there I think is what a lot of people need to understand to break that monotony of thought that they may have. Sometimes we have to really look into ourselves and think about what it is that we are standing on, what type of things that we value. And you're right about that. Just like the way that it's been pummeled into us, there's something about a white woman in a suit, a white man in a suit when it comes to these things where we're like, okay, you must be very knowledgeable, right? You must be an expert in this. You must know what you're talking about. And it's something different if you show up like you're dressed today and somebody goes, well, are you sure you know what you're doing? Like, how long have you done this? Wait a minute, what kind of connects do you have? Because I think a lot of times we really associate this outward appearance with what we think is actually on the inside. And oftentimes that's not the case. So your space is for real estate agents who you're saying are also brokers to come in and actually be themselves. And you have an actual space, right, where people can work out of. Tell us more about that model there and how maybe some people out there are looking for exactly what your brokerage offers.
So again, I really have been trying to foster a collective identity because I spend countless hours studying and learning, right? That's my education. I read 3 or 4 books a month. I consume anything that will help me develop myself personally, financially, or my business. So one thing that I have come to realize is that everyone does it. It's collective because you have the person on the forefront that says, I'm the CEO, or say Kenny or whoever it is that looks to be a lone ranger. They're not. They're going to their friends, their family. They're building this pool of money, and they get behind someone that has a good idea, and then they champion that person, and everyone wins, right? But somehow, if we do not learn to pull our resources together, develop a collective identity, group economics, we're going to continue to perpetuate the same thing over and over, because we cannot compete one person versus a company of 30 people, right? Where it looks like they've done it alone. They haven't. This is the way, like you said, since the beginning of times, we've had to do this collectively. And a lot of people talk about it, but then when it comes down to say, put your money up, and what I mean, most people don't understand this. I don't mean call me and say I'm with it. I mean, let's open a trust account today, 10 people, we put our money in there. We trust that when the opportunity presents itself, that we will now have this money, right? But who can you imagine that? Meeting 10 people right now and saying, everybody, let's open a trust account tomorrow, put our money in there, and then when the opportunity presents itself, we'll be ready to purchase it, right? What typically happens is everybody says yes. I go out, I scramble, I create the perfect opportunity, package it up nice, and send it out, and nothing. That actually happened to me on this real estate brokerage. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have 6 partners. None of them came through. It literally was a group chat with a lot of talk and chatter. It sounded good. And then when I said, all right, you guys, this is how much money we need, I have the screenshot to prove it. Nothing. They ghosted me. Wow. So what I'm saying is that collective identity is what we need to do. Group economics. The reason why I keep repeating it, because I want that to really materialize with people and say, hey, we have acted as lone rangers, and it's hard. I'm been through it, right? Every time I needed to pull together some money, I would have all these people that said they were with it, and then it would make me look like an idiot. And because I go to them confidently, I got it. I believe them. You know what I'm saying? We're so good, so charismatic of presenting the story of, yeah, I'm with it. But then when it's time to put up the money, there's nothing. So if it's not me, maybe I'm the common denominator, but go build it with someone else. Yeah. Like, go create the model and show that it can be done.
Yeah, this right here is where I think, sometimes they say, oh, you don't want to mix family and business. But no, if you got the right mindset, you can do it. I think you're absolutely right. And it doesn't have to be blood relatives. We're talking about people you grew up with that you really trust, at the end of the day, when we have that idea that, okay, look, I'm going to invest $2,500. You're going to invest, we're going to do something with this money. We're going to keep on investing in this collective pool of money. I love this idea, but it's also because I really understand that foundation of the first civilizations, which is always for me so inspiring. Mm-hmm. So you got more inspiration to share. We're going to get into all things Pleasanttrees, because now you've utilized this kind of collective model and you're doing something major right here for Washington State. You guys stay tuned. We're going to be diving in with Kenny after this short break and learn all about this other business venture he has going on, Pleasanttrees. You're watching The Day with Trae. Hey there, it's Trae Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear. Okay, you guys, look, we're still over here talking about this because welcome back to the Day with Trae. Kenny Pleasant is my guest today, and we were just talking about collective economics, right? This is that idea of cooperative economics, everybody pulling into something. But Kenny, before we go into Pleasantries, you were just sharing that actually there's opportunities right now. There may be some audience members out there listening, some guests who are like, wait a minute, how can I tap in? But you're saying there's something on the table, right?
Yeah, I won't go into it. If someone is interested, they'll definitely contact me. But we
Yeah.
have a opportunity out of state in a major market, one of the best markets in the country, and we're looking for a couple people to pull together some money and help participate in it. The work is done. We're not looking for any creative input or anything other than some money.
Yeah. So I want to give you that opportunity too, because you can look right there and let folks know how they can connect with you if they're interested in some of the things you're describing or on in the brokerage.
Okay, yeah, you can email me at kennypleasant@gmail.com or contact my assistant Bria, admin at nexthomeprolific.com.
Thank you so much for that. Now, uh, these opportunities keep rolling, man. And I actually met you with Pleasantries, right? And I was like, what? First 100% black owned dispensary, because right here on Converge, when we heard that, the story broke, Sean Kemp, black owned dispensary, we were the first ones to be like, wait a minute, how much percentage does he really own? And it showed up that people had to kind of retract their stories because everybody was celebrating as if he owned it 100%, but we realized it was only like 5%. So tell us about this venture with Pleasantries, and you've got a grand opening that's happening soon.
First, I want to say I have my mentor and kind of um, person that basically my business partner, Michael Baraki. He's a Eritrean. They have Kush 21, and he is actually the first black owned. I pretty much studied under him for the last couple of years, figured out, a way into the business, and we've worked together on some things. So I got to give him credit for being the first black.
Wow, amazing. Kush 21. And this is up in Everett, right?
Kush 21 is in Burien.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
Pleasantrees is in Everett, yes,
Oh,
on
okay. It's two
Highway
different ones.
99, yes.
Got it. And so now, after working with him and working underneath him and his kind of tutelage, you learn some ways to enter the business. Now, this is the exciting part for me because on the community level, one of the things that have been really getting pushed for are equity licenses, right? How do we break folks into this business, right? We have a Black community that was the most impacted by the war on drugs, which did not work necessarily, right? Didn't stop drugs. However, we understood that it also incarcerated many of our people who were out there, dealing drugs, and even those who were taking drugs, right? The way that they criminalized drug use was insane, right? But Black community members are the ones that were the most impacted by this. And so in the community, we've been like, man, we need to break into this $1 billion industry in cannabis. You actually went about it through a private route. Just tell us a bit about what that looks like so folks really understand there's other way to do this.
So the mine was an acquisition of another store, um, and it was pretty difficult doing it by myself. And put simply, I don't want to crowd this with any other words except if we pull resources together, there are stores that we can buy. There are new license emerging states that are opening up licensing. If we had the opportunity to pull resources together, because everyone else that is opening these stores that we're watching and saying it's no fair, look at what they're doing it by simply pulling their money together and inquiring these different licenses in different states, and other stores are for sale all the time. But
Wow.
where are the people that are willing to sacrifice? I heard once that everything we gain in life is a result of something we gave up, and a lot of us aren't willing to give up our luxuries, our lifestyles, our swag, the way we look, right, our comfort, in order for something greater. And I think it boils down to that. What are we willing to sacrifice so that we can participate and change the narrative instead of continuing to make documentaries about how Black people are put out of this? There's opportunities open right now.
Yeah. See, this right here, I think for me is kind of an eye opener. I think for many people out there, because it's not as if Black people don't spend money on things. But when you begin to prioritize some investments, when you begin to understand there's ways to utilize the same income you have and to do something that's going to actually create an asset for you that will pay you back, right? Over time. That right there is something that has been happening over and over and over again. And even though our people may have created the models, right now we're not the main ones benefiting from them. So
Hmm.
you're really talking about something that is, again, ancient as old as time, and yet we're the ones still kind of left behind in regard to where we are today. Now, Pleasantries, I mean, what a dope name, by the way, right? Kitty
Appreciate it.
Pleasant with Pleasant Trees. I love the word play right there. But this is really exciting because you guys are opening at the end of the month, right? And you got a pretty major grand opening plan. Tell us all about that.
So Saturday, July 30th, from 12 to 6, have a grand opening. Pleasantries on Everett. We have Jacquees that will be there. He'll be signing autographs. He also working on a product that he may be releasing at the store as well. We have food trucks, DJ, and the community. So I'm hoping that my people from Seattle come out. I know it's a long drive, but just come support if you would.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really dope. And what a way to do it in style too. It's like not just a grand opening. We're gonna have Jacquees in the building. We're gonna be, elevating the tone a bit here with the food trucks and the DJs. Of course, we gotta do it all, in
For
our
sure.
own way, right? In our own way. Well, you were talking about how this really takes a team. And I just want to give you time because I know that this has been a serious uphill lift for you and others that have been with you. Make sure we understand that piece because sometimes people think, oh man, Kenny must have had $1 million to be able to do this stuff on his own. You're talking about it like, no, some people had to really also believe in you, and it was tough. And you're saying there's a need for us to really do this collective pulling of our money so we can do more of the things that you're showcasing you're doing today. But I just want you to be able to give folks that message because that's what I do here on the Day with Trae. I really want them to hear that again from you before I let you go.
Put simply, it don't feel as good as it looks. Um, it was the hardest work I ever had to do. Maintaining the brokerage. We also have a co-working space. It's called Think and Grow Space. But deciding that if logically, I would have said, you know what, that's a great opportunity in the next 3 to 6 months or whatever. This new out of state opportunity. But when the opportunity to buy the Pleasantry store presented itself, it couldn't have been the worst timing. It couldn't have been any worse, excuse me. And I know that, opportunity sometimes not only once. And so I sacrificed, pushed through everything, went through some, situational depression, same thing like everybody else. But I decided that I had to make it happen. And even right now, my will and my commitment to make sure it succeeds and represents us is taking everything I got. So it, again, everything we get in life is a result of something that we gave up, is sacrificing. And
Yeah.
that's what it takes ultimately.
It definitely does. And I feel you on that. I realize even for me and for the lane that I'm in, there is always this kind of more personal sacrifice because life is work, right? There's not a lot of separation there. And there's something to be said about, me being a mother and, raising my kids to understand that. So I really appreciate that, man. If people are looking to connect with Pleasantries, to come out, make sure you look right there and let folks know how they can reach out to you on the Pleasantry side.
Pleasantries. You can email us at manager@pleasantrees.com. But of course, we want you to stop by. The address is 13224 Highway 99. Please come out before the grand opening. We're open right now. You'll find it under Local Roots is the previous name. But please come out Saturday between 12 and 6 to celebrate the grand opening party.
Amazing. Kenny, thank you so much for coming on today. We had a great conversation last week, and I'm
Absolutely.
like, man, I need to do what I can. So I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story. So inspiring for so many people. Thank you for what you're doing. I know it takes a toll on you personally, and I feel you on that. But absolutely, it looks like you are staying in your lane and building lanes for others to join you. So thank you for that inspiration.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. You guys, what a great